Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Product Attributes and Categories in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. My name is Katie and I will be the facilitator today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen and we'll answer questions at the end. This session will be recorded and posted on our blog as well as shared with you early next week. Now, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Nico Papagianni, Solution Specialist on our Dynamics 365 F&O team here at Encore. Nico, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Katie. Hello, everybody. Today, like she said, we're going to be talking about product attributes and categories inside of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. We're just going to be doing a brief overview of both product attributes and product categories, and then we're going to be diving into a quick little demo to show you how to set up product categories, configure product attributes, and then assign those attributes to the category, and finally view them as actual attribute values on the released product. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing we need to do is understand product attributes and understand product categories. What is a product category hierarchy? Simply said, it's a structured group, system group of products into categories and subcategories for better organization and management. In plain English, that basically just means it's a way of organizing different types of products inside of a product catalog. So for example, if you're someone who sells and manufactures t-shirts, you might have categories for materials, for different sizes, neck sizes, different logo patterns. It can be many, many different things, and it's highly configurable and can be configured to exactly what your business needs. The nice thing about Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations is that it supports multiple category hierarchies. So it can be used for multiple different business practices around your business. For example, your procurement team can have a category hierarchy and it can split out products in ways that are useful for them. Your sales team can have a different product category hierarchy that splits out products in ways that makes more sense to them. And then your product managers and product designers can have their own product category, which is the one that we're going to be primarily focusing on during our demo today. And that one is called the commerce product hierarchy. That one's primarily used for retail environments and by product managers to design their products. So fitting into those product categories are things called product attributes. Now these attributes define product characteristics stored in various formats like integers, decimals, booleans, dates, and then text fields. Each one of those attributes are grouped and then assigned to the nodes in the category hierarchy, and that's what structures the data and allows you to view those data values on the released products themselves. All right, so we're going to jump right into a demo, and we're going to start by setting up a product category hierarchy. Just some key things to pay attention in this demo is going to be creating that new category hierarchy, creating the category nodes inside of that category hierarchy, and then assigning the category hierarchy to an assignment type. So I'm going to jump right into my demo environment here. On the left-hand side, we're going to go to our modules. We're going to go to the Product Information Management module. We are going to go to Expand All. We're going to go to the Categories and Attributes tab under Setup, and we are going to go to Category Hierarchies. That's going to open a list of all the different category hierarchies that exist in your system at the moment. You might have some, you might have none. None. In our demo environment, we have quite a few. And the one that we're going to be focusing on is one that I've already made here, which is this retail product category. But just as an example, if you want to create a new one, you come up here to the top. You're just going to simply click New, give it a name, and a description if you want. The description can just describe what the goal of the category hierarchy is. You can also leave it blank or just copy the same thing as the name. We're going to click Create, and it's going to bring us to our category hierarchy, which has nothing created in it at the moment. The first thing you want to do when you're in here is you want to just start creating category nodes. So nodes are going to be the sections of the product category hierarchy that we will store product data against. And these can be as specific or as generic as we want. So if we take, for example, a manufacturer of a t-shirt company, we can create a category node at the top, and let's just call this the primary category. You can assign codes to the category hierarchy if you have some kind of coding system inside of your company. For now, we're just going to leave that blank. You can also give it a description. You can give it a friendly name, which is a quicker way of searching, and you can assign any keywords to this category if you need. Again, all of this is optional. The only thing that is required is this name. Now we're going to go ahead and create category nodes under this primary category. Like I said before, sometimes these can be like, let's just say these are t-shirts as our new node. I'm going to click back up here to this primary category here because I want to add another node in the same tree as t-shirts, right? We'll say this one is going to be long sleeve. And again, these can be anything that's relevant to your company. Go back to the primary category and we'll do one last one called sweatshirts, right? So now I have 3 categories that are on the same level that define different types of products inside of my system. Inside of t-shirts, I can then go ahead and add another node, and you'll see how it knocks out another little arrow here, so we can add more things, and we'll say we'll do men's t-shirts. We'll go back up to our t-shirts category, we'll add one more node, and we'll do women's. Right? It's just an example of how you can get even more granular, and you can go as deep into these category nodes as you want, right? And then you can click this little expand collapse to collapse and expand, and we will go through. You can go through and build those out. Just for the example's sake though, I'm going to go back to the one that I already have built. So I'm going to go back to my category hierarchies here. I'm going to go to this retail product category and open it. And I'll show you the one that was already been built out in here. So like I said, you can see we have a bunch of different nodes, just like we made in our other category hierarchy. And you can expand and collapse those with a bunch of different options. You'll notice that there's no products added at this top level. And we'll dive into the product assignment a little bit later, but just something to make note of right now. Okay, let's jump back to our presentation. So we've created a new category hierarchy. We've created some category nodes inside of that hierarchy. Now the last thing we need to do is assign that category hierarchy to a type inside of our system. So let's go back to our product information management module. We'll go back to our categories and attributes menu. And right below category hierarchies, you'll see category hierarchy role associations. So we want to go in there. And in there is a simple list of all of the different category hierarchies inside of our system, and then which category hierarchy they apply to. So we have category hierarchy types. These are inbuilt by the system. If I click new, we can see all of them. So these are all of the different category hierarchy types that are available inside of Dynamics 365. And like I said earlier, each one of these most likely relates to a different place inside of your business, right? So we have packing material hierarchy. We have an engineering product hierarchy for the engineering team. We have a sales category hierarchy for the sales team. We have a procurement category hierarchy for the procurement team. So what you want to do is when you create a category hierarchy, you want to associate it with the type that most closely resembles the people that are going to be using it. Now, there are a few of these that are only allowed to be used once inside of your system. For example, the commerce product hierarchy, you can only have one category hierarchy assigned to that. The procurement category hierarchy can have multiple category hierarchies assigned to it, most likely to support different procurement teams having different structures and classifications of products. So simply said, you just select the type that you want, and you come over to your category hierarchy dropdown and find the category hierarchy that you want to assign to it. In this case, we'll pick our new demo category and assign it to that. Then just click save, and now the two are paired. All right, so let's move on past here since we've accomplished all of these tasks, and let's move on to setting up product attributes. And this is where the real meat comes out. So key demo points here to pay attention to, we're going to be setting up 3 different types of things. We're going to be setting up attribute types, we're going to be setting up attributes, and we're going to be setting up attribute groups. Now, this is the exact order you want to follow when you configure this. You want to set up types first, then attributes, then you want to group those attributes into groups. So let's jump back into our system here. We'll go back to this product information management module. We're going to go to the categories and attributes section again, and we are going to go to attribute types. And we're going to click into here. You notice that I have quite a lot of them made already. Your system might have a few, it might have none. There's no problem, because there's a very simple way to start with attribute types. Like I said in the intro, there's a few different types of category attributes that are available by default in the system, right? We have Boolean, we have text, we have currency, date time, decimal, integer, video, image, and text. So each one of those is available in this type category. And the first thing I would do if I had no attribute types available is I would go through and create a simple attribute type for each one of those different value types. And what I mean by that is come through and create a simple Boolean type, right? So here I've called this Boolean domain. It just has type Boolean, and it has no other, it has no fixed list, it has no value range associated with it. I'm down here. I have one called currency domain, which is just calling type currency, one date time, which is just calling date time, one decimal that is just called decimal, etc., etc. If you add each one of those, so if I click new here, and we'll just say this is my new demo attribute type, you'll see all the different types available to me, right? So we have one for each one of those in this list. As soon as you have one made for each one of those, then you have a good starting block of attribute types that you can begin building attributes off of. You may run into situations where, specifically with text, where you want more specific values associated with it. So a good example of that, if I go to text, let's say you have an attribute and you know you're going to have a fixed set of values associated with that attribute. If we go back to our t-shirt example, right? If you have a men's t-shirt, you might have something like a color, like a t-shirt color attribute type, and you know that you have a fixed list of colors that can be associated with that. So pick type text, go for toggle the fixed list, and then you can add a preset list of values into this attribute type. And then you can simply just say, okay, we'll have a blue t-shirt, right? We'll have a black t-shirt, and you can go on and on down the list like that. The majority of the attribute types that I have already built into the system are exactly that type. They're mostly fixed lists of text that have preset lists of values associated with them. The other option you have for text, obviously, is to have a non-fixed list, right? If you leave this as fixed list toggled to no, but type text, that allows the user in the attribute to just type whatever value they want in there. That can be advantageous because it allows you full flexibility. It can be disadvantages, obviously, because you can have people misentering things, entering values that don't correspond actually to the attributes that you're entering. So pluses and minuses for each. You can do something similar with currency or with decimals, so with numbers, using this value range, where you're able to toggle the value range to yes, and then it restricts the user from entering values that fall outside of the from and to range. By default, it goes 0 to 0, but let's just say, for example, it goes 0 to 10. This would allow you to only enter values that fall in between 0 and 10 on this attribute. Okay, so once we have attributes types set up, and if you don't know all of them right off the bat, that's totally fine. Just doing the basic ones that align with the different types is a great way to get started, because you can always come back and add more later. So now that we have attribute types, let's go ahead and create some attributes that grab those types. So we'll come back to our product information management module, back to categories and attributes, and we will go to the attributes section right here. All right. So now we will be creating attributes that call on these different attribute types. So if you remember back on my previous screen, we had some different attribute types. Let's take this one, camp seasons, for example. We will create a new attribute, and it's calling this attribute type camp seasons, which has a fixed list of attribute values. So simply what we'll be doing is just hitting this new button. You select an attribute type from the list that relates to the attribute that you want to use. And you can use these attribute types as many times as you want. They're not limited one-to-one by any stretch of the imagination. So let's just use construction as an example, and we'll just say, we'll call it construction demo. You can also give it a friendly name. It automatically just pulls in the regular name. And then you can ignore the rest of this attribute metadata options. That's a little bit more of an advanced way of querying attributes, and it's not something that's recommended right off the bat. So as soon as you've set this up, hit save, and a little value will pop up here, our default value. This allows you to set the default value whenever this is pulled into a release product. So you can pick which one of these you want it to be. You do have to assign it a default value, and you'll notice that we have 4 different values here, but if that default value doesn't fall into one of these values, you'll need to go back to the attribute type and add a different value into there that you could assign as default. And then you just simply repeat that process for each of the different attributes that you want to add by clicking new, calling the attribute type, and naming it. Best practice is just to name the attribute and the attribute type as the same thing, or to name the attribute what you're looking to have visible on the release product data. So for example, if something is either in season or out of season, the attribute type you would use would be Boolean, so it'd be yes or no, and then the attribute you would call it would be in season, and then the options would either be in season yes or in season no. So once we have all of these added, and you add as many as you want at the beginning, just to get going, the best way would be to add one attribute for each attribute type that you have created. Once we have all of those, we will go and begin to group those attributes into groupings. So let's go back to product information management. We'll go to categories and attributes. We'll go to attribute groups down here. And here's where we can create a group and assign groups of attributes inside of that. So if we think about the example of the t-shirts that I used earlier, you could come in here and create an attribute grouping for t-shirts, for example, and that would contain attribute data that related to color, to neck size, to t-shirt size, to logo, to material. Any of that stuff could be grouped into one of these attribute groups. And what we're going to do with these attribute groups is actually assign these to different nodes on the category hierarchy that we set up earlier. So let's just take, for example, if I go to dresses here, similar to t-shirts, right? I have a bunch of attributes in this attribute group called dresses for cleaning type, closure, type, fabric, fit, neck, all these different attributes that I've created previously, because basically I want to simplify this and say that if I have a node on my product category hierarchy that relates to dresses or to clothing, menswear, women's wear, whatever, here are all of the different attributes that I want to associate with a grouping of dresses so that we don't have to constantly add one attribute one by one into the category node. It allows for a little bit more flexibility. So we'll assign this dresses attribute group to the category node, and then further down the line, if we need to make changes to any of the attributes that are inside of this group, we can just do that here, or we can make changes to the attribute itself, to the different values on the type list, or to anything like that, and have it automatically pass all the way through to the category hierarchy, and then pass through to the release product. Okay. So let's just recap real quick. We've gone through and set up each one of these things in kind of an expedited manner, but as long as you follow this standard sequence from attribute types to attributes to attribute groups, you'll have everything that you need in order to take an attribute group and take it back to our category hierarchy and get it to the release product. So let's combine the category hierarchy and attributes. Let's go back to our hierarchy and add an attribute group to that hierarchy. So I'll come back in here. We'll go to product information management again. We'll go to our category hierarchies. We'll open the retail product category. Let's open up fashion. Let's open up women's wear. And let's open up dresses like we did before. So you'll see under dresses, I have a bunch of different products associated with this, which look good. These are all the different products that are in my system that we've decided are associated with this node of dresses. But one thing you'll notice is there's nowhere to add attribute groups into this. And that's because there is a separate, better way of configuring a product commerce hierarchy that is outside of product information management. This view right here that we have open is a perfect way of adding products and removing products from nodes on the category hierarchy, but it's not the best way of associating attributes and attribute groups to nodes on the category hierarchy. To do that, we're going to go to the retail and commerce module. We're going to go in this top section, we are going to go to the one called commerce product hierarchy. And again, we get that commerce product hierarchy association from the category hierarchy association that we talked about earlier, where we assign the category hierarchy to the type commerce product hierarchy, and that unlocks our ability to use this section here, where we can add product attribute groups to different nodes on the category hierarchy, as well as a bunch of other properties of release products that we may go into at a later date. So let's open up that same node that we had before. We'll go to women's wear and we will go to dresses here. You'll notice that I can also add products up here, just like I could on the previous screen. It's the same exact mechanism. If you need to add products, you can simply click add, type the product number, or you can click add products and add a bunch of products from a list into this view. I'm going to collapse that menu and we'll go down to our product attribute groups down here. So you'll see right now I have no product attribute groups assigned to this node on the category hierarchy. So let's just click add and see if we can find the one that we need to add. So I click add, and in here I have a list of product attribute groups, and we'll go through here. You can see these are all the ones that were added that we saw on the previous screen, and the one that we were looking at previously was just called dresses. If I click on that, you can see all of the attributes listed down here that are associated with that attribute group, and we'll just move it over to the selected and click OK to add that into the category hierarchy. And there it is. So now all the products that are listed up here have had product attributes from this group associated with them. So now that we have a product attribute group associated with this category node of dresses, we're going to go and check that there are product attributes associated with this release product. So I'm going to grab this product number right here. We're going to go back to product information management. We are going to go to all products, and we are going to sort for that product right there. And then at the top, under the product tab up here, you'll see a button called product attributes, and we'll just click there, and there we go. So we have all of the product attributes that we just associated with that group, which are all part of the product attribute group dresses associated with this product striped dress. And we have all of these different product attributes with their default values in here. And you can come through and change those values to what they need to be associated with and all of that. So if we need to add any more product attributes going forward, all we need to do is add the product attribute to the product group dresses, and then it will show up on all of the products that are associated with that product category node, which would be this product along with those other 20 or so products that were associated with it. Okay. So let's go back to our presentation real quick. So we've added attribute groups into the hierarchy. We did that in the retail and commerce module on the commerce product hierarchy. We added products to the category hierarchy nodes in the same way. That is on the same screen. In our demo, we had some products associated with it already, but you can always add additional products to that category hierarchy node from that same screen. And then we went to the product and we viewed the product attribute on the released product and on the unreleased product as well, since product attributes work on both screens. So if you're doing this and you're having trouble seeing, why can't I see my product attributes on the released product? It's most likely due to one of three reasons, right? The attribute is not part of one of the attribute groups associated with the category assigned to the released product. So that means on the category hierarchy, when we added that attribute group, that attribute that you're looking for is not part of that group that was added, or the attribute group itself is not associated with the category assigned to the release product, meaning that if you go to the category hierarchy and you look at the node, there is no attribute group associated with that node specifically, or the release product is not assigned to the category on the commerce product hierarchy. So that would be, again, back to that commerce product hierarchy. And if the product is not assigned to that category, then you will not see any attributes associated with the product itself. So if you cannot see a product attribute on a release product, just look at these three steps. And if all of these are true, then you should and will see it on the release
Great,
product.
thanks, Nico. So again, if anyone does have any questions, please enter them into the question area, the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Let's see here. So I don't see any that have come through quite yet, and we are getting close to time. So I'm going to go ahead and add a link to our events page in the chat if you'd like to check out previous webinars or register for upcoming sessions. Also going to be adding a link where you can set your email preferences and opt into our emails so you can stay in the know about some upcoming sessions as well as our latest blog articles. So both of those are in the chat now. Right, and if you do have questions after the session ends, we will get back to you by email later today. But thank you, Nico, for the information, and thank you everyone for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.